Hello everyone, it's Pat here from Beads and Plenty More, and today I'm going to talk about working with wire, cutting, shaping, and hammering with wire. And the wire that I'm using is the 12 gauge aluminum wire. And the reason that I chose this wire is that it is a little bit thicker, and there's a few colors. Actually, I haven't got all the colors, but here's a few choices. When you do hammer it, you get a little bit more width, and if you're going to go to the work of hammering your piece, then I think it probably is worth having a little wider piece. I've got, as an example here, I've got a piece that I made with where I did hammer it and where I didn't hammer it. So maybe if that's detailed enough, you can see the difference. You get more width and you get flatter, and it also gives more strength to the wire when you hammer it. So some finished pieces I have. I've got this blue heart, which I use the silver wire to wrap, which gives it a little bit of contrast. And then I did one with the brown, and I used the matching wrap. So I used the 12 gauge wire for the main area, and the wrapping wire can be either a 26 or a 28 gauge. Both will work quite well. The silver was a 28, and the brown I used a 26 gauge. So for the most part, a lot of these shapes are based on the spiral. And so I've cut a little piece here of the 12 gauge wire, and I like these pliers with the equal sizes all the way down instead of using the round nose. These ones work really well for this. So you can start at the end, make your small circle, and then continue a little bit further to make the spiral. And always using the nylon jaw pliers to keep from marking. Makes a really nice spiral. So we'll just work that around. Also, this wire, it is fairly easy to work with your hands, which is kind of nice too. So I'm going to tuck this end on the other direction, and we'll get a nice little piece like that. Sometimes called wire filigree when you're making all these pieces. And then you can lay out all your pieces together to make a unit, like I did with the bigger brown piece and the heart. So then after you do that, then you would put it on your pounding block and use the hammer to pound this way, and then turn over, of course, pound the other side, and then the rounded end of the plier will give you some texture. So you can, I'm hoping you can see the difference with the texture, because it does look really nice. My blue piece that I made with the heart, I did texture the whole thing. So there's a little piece that can be worked in. So I've made quite a few pieces here in the blue wire, and I just want to show you how we go about. So that's a big spiral going both ways, the S shape going both ways. So that was my main piece. And to make that, I started with the Sharpie marker, because it's got a nice round barrel, and created it so that I could get the bigness of it. Then I took another piece and worked it around so that it could be, and just shaped it around. And I've got all these little gaps here, which can be used with the webbing, which is kind of nice too. And then it looked a little empty up at the top there, so I created this little piece to kind of tuck into the top. Thought it kind of fit in there nicely. I guess it went like that. Yeah. Now, always a good suggestion when you're putting pieces together like this, at this point, you get out the camera and take a picture of it, because you're going to have to lift that up in order to do the hammering and in order to do the webbing and attaching beads. So then, in order to attach some beads, I just took some nice little spacer beads. I like to use a fairly small bead usually, and you can just kind of drop them in around to see where they would fit nicely. And then again, before you take your picture, you'd want to do this so that you can see, okay, I wanted 3 beads there and 2 here, and You know, you can do lots or a few beads, whatever is kind of attractive. So the spiral is kind of your basic one. The heart is also a nice shape to make. I made a smaller one here in the blue again, and it needed a centerpiece, so I made a spiral to fit into the center of it. Now this would be bound on the sides here and here and here. I'd like to hold that in nice and solid, and maybe a bead or two. We'll just push that one off and put this one on so you can maybe see what a bead or two would look like, maybe one right in the very center. I also have some rounds. These are kind of a disc shape, the ones that I've gotten. They don't show as good because they always follow whole side up. I guess they all do, but it's nice to be able to see the sides. So you could add potentially 3 beads, maybe one in the very center and one on each side here. Like that would be nice to tidy that up. And the wrapping. So we're going to do a little bit of wrapping on the video too, so that you can see how that's done. I'm going to use the silver wire again, which works very well with the blue and of course silver beads. So when you're wrapping, let's take my beads off for now. It's a good idea to not use too long a piece because it can be really difficult to feed into all the little circles and everything, so it's nice to have a shorter piece. And I also recommend starting in the middle of the piece so that you can go both directions once you start wrapping. So go into the middle, get that kind of lined up there, and then we're going to feed this through. I do find the 28 gauge is a little bit easier to wrap with because it is softer, and so when you're feeding through in a small area like that, I guess the other benefit of using starting in the middle of your wire too is that you have a lot more area to anchor with your left hand, in my case. Can't say anything against the lefties now. Angie's a lefty. But I am very right-handed, so I always have to use my left hand for holding and my right hand for working. So that's how we do the joining wraps. Now to finish, again, you want to get a nice tight pull. Sometimes you can use pliers for that. I like to use my chain nose to get a hold of that wire and give it a really good hard tug to make sure that it's nice and tight around there. Go to what I would call the back side of the work and cut away the wire fairly close. This one's on the other side. Okay, cut away there. Then back with my chain nose. Stay there and give that a nice little wrap. Got to get inside there. Snug it up really good. Oh, this one's difficult to get to, so we'll go in with the bigger pliers, the nylon jaws, because they'll get in better. Tighten that up a bit. Get this piece from this side over, and again, a good hard squeeze down. First you have to give it a good tug to make sure your wrap is tight, and then you do squeeze down that last bit. So that's how you do a wrap. And so and again, to attach the beads, you just go through do a wrap of at least 3 or 4 rounds, and then go up and through the beads and to the other side another 3 or 4 rounds. 4 is really good, I find. And then I made a little hook on there to hang from the cord. Here I've got a cord on the brown one here. So that's just 2 circles going the same direction. So before we finish, I want to go back into showing you how to do a larger piece. So take 6 or 8 inches of wire, and we're going to use the Sharpie marker as the starter. The other thing Sharpie markers are really good for too is to cover up, see the silver on the end there? So we can just take the dark color and cover that up. And hopefully not get it on my hand, right? So then we just do a basic turn with the big plier, and then I'm going to go in with these pliers that have the two sides and make my small turns. And this one you have to reverse because you've got two sizes there. So you get that one in like that, and then on this side we're going to bring this in to a circle, reverse so that I have the right. So you get your double spiral, and we can wrap it in a little tighter. Tuck these raw ends a little bit. You need a lot of different pliers when you're doing this. Each one has a big benefit, so you're better to be using lots. So that would be the basic spiral, something like I've got in the brown one over here, only this one's a touch smaller again. So that would be one of my beginning pieces. I've got a smaller version of that that's already hammered here. So you start working with all the pieces, and you can make one that goes just the one direction. Again, here's another style of piece that can work in. That one I used, no, I didn't use it in the heart. I was going to use it in the heart, but the heart I've used a spiral on the one side and just a small piece on this side because it didn't need this equal on both sides. Now, to do a heart, that's another one that's kind of nice to know how to do, so I'm going to do that one for you as well. So we'll cut that off. So start with your wire and bend it up and reverse it. This is going to get you that nice bottom piece here on the heart. Bring that nice and snug so that it makes a nice bottom piece for the heart. Bring these back, and at this point we want to bow these out to make the sides of the heart. So we'll go back to using the round of the Sharpie marker. Bend these out, keep shaping until we get nice and even and out like that. So then we want to bring these guys in and do a curl. So back with my nice little round ends here. Actually, this needs to be trimmed. You see how it's got kind of an angle on it? So take your pliers on this side so that you get the nice straight cut. Do a nice little cut so I get a square end. And this one's not quite so bad, but we'll do it too just to make sure. And go back in with the small side here and do a curl and turn to do the same on the other side. So then we check it to make sure they're kind of equal and spread them out. So then another option would be to have the heart together like that, and you could do a binding here and attach it with some jump rings so that you get a nice straight heart. But I chose to do mine to hang from the side, which I don't need to have it quite as equal then. Get that out just a bit. See how the Sharpie marker, you can do a lot of shaping with it. So I hope I've given you some ideas to work on, and I would really like to see some of you send some pictures back to me if you could, because that would be fun for me to see too and see what you've created. Okay, bye for now.